Hi, I'm Maureen. Last Thanksgiving, my family voted, unanimously, to exclude me. No call, no seat, not even a name tag. So I sat in my car, sipping gas station soup while they raised glasses in a house I still paid for. But that wasn't the worst part. It was realizing they'd been quietly writing me out for years, digit by digit, dollar by dollar. Now they say, we're finally whole. But who paid for that wholeness? And what happens when the one holding everything up decides to let go? It was one of those quiet November evenings that made Lexington feel colder than it really was. The kind of cold that came not from the wind, but from what didn't show up. I had just wrapped up a late project, the kind of overtime nobody thanked you for, but everyone relied on. As I stepped into my apartment, heels clicking against the hardwood, I instinctively reached for my phone. It was muscle memory. Refresh the family group thread, skim the Thanksgiving plans, roll my eyes at the usual passive-aggressive dish assignments. But tonight, nothing. No messages, no, who's bringing the cranberry sauce, or don't forget the folding chairs. Just a quiet screen and that strange hollowness you feel when something familiar doesn't arrive on time. I opened my email. Still nothing. It wasn't like them. My family was many things, loud, messy, occasionally cruel, but never disorganized. The Thanksgiving Zoom planning call had been an annual tradition since COVID, and somehow it stuck. We planned our passive aggression with Excel sheets and group polls. And I hadn't gotten the link. I refreshed the inbox 3 times. Then I opened my calendar, wondering if I had missed a reminder, overlooked something. Nothing there either. I tried brushing it off. Maybe they were running late. Maybe my email bounced. Maybe I was being overly sensitive again, the old accusation replaying like a broken voicemail. I scrolled through my photos, looking for last year's Thanksgiving. There it was, my sweet potato casserole in the blue Le Creuset, the one everyone devoured without acknowledging I'd made it from scratch. A blurry picture of me and Callista, my sister, toasting wine glasses. Her caption had read, "Love our messy little tribe." I remembered commenting. No one replied. That night, after microwaving a lukewarm meal I didn't really want, I called Byron. My brother's voice was flat when he picked up. "Hey, everything okay?" I kept it light. "Just wondering if we're still doing the Zoom planning this year." A beat. Then, "Oh, I thought you were traveling again this year. Didn't Callista say that?" "No, I never said that." Another pause. The kind that tastes metallic. "I guess we assumed you've been busy." Busy. That word again. The all-purpose eraser of expectations. You've been busy. You're too much. You're not enough. You're hard to place. After we hung up, I opened the group thread. I wasn't in it. They had started a new one. I wasn't added. I sat on the couch in the dark. I didn't cry. I wasn't sad. I was stunned. Because this wasn't forgetfulness. This was a quiet consensus. Elie Wiesel once said, "The opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference." They hadn't hated me. They had simply agreed that I wasn't necessary this year. Still, I tried to hold on to grace. I mailed my mother a gift anyway. Handmade linen napkins, stitched with her initials, something I saw on Etsy that reminded me of her pre-retirement elegance. It was a gesture, not a plea. 2 days later, I baked a batch of snickerdoodles and decided to drop them off at her house. No warning, no agenda. She opened the door, wearing that faintly startled look she saved for when I reminded her I existed. "Oh, you're here?" "I was just in the neighborhood," I said, holding up the cookies. She hesitated, then moved aside. "Come in for a second. I won't keep you." The house smelled like cloves and lemon furniture polish. Everything in place. Everything too perfect. As I stepped inside, I noticed the gift I'd mailed, still in its original box, resting next to a bottle of detergent in the laundry room. Half opened. The ribbon askew. Napkins still folded, but untouched. I stared at them. Silent. She noticed. "I wasn't sure you'd want to see it now," she offered. "Felt Too formal. I didn't argue. I just pulled out my phone and took a photo. No flash, no words. Proof that kindness had a timestamp, and mine had expired. I left shortly after. She thanked me for the cookies. I nodded, walked to my car, and shut the door. It started to rain, light, then heavier. I turned on the wipers and watched them push back the blur, rhythmically useless. On the drive home, the truth started settling into my bones. For years, I gave quietly, covered the heating bill when Dad fell behind, paid the roofer when the shingles collapsed, brought gifts I never saw unwrapped, filled fridges, lit fireplaces, and now, I was too much for a folding chair at Thanksgiving. There's nothing colder than being left out by people who owe you warmth. I pulled into the parking lot of my apartment complex, headlights hitting the same blue sedan that always parked half an inch over the line. As I reached for my phone to silence it, a notification blinked onto the screen. It was a post from my niece Kayla, a photo of the dining table, white linens, gold plates, a turkey mid-carve. Caption, "Everyone's here, ready for our real ones planning night. No tag, no mention, no seat." I guess I finally knew what being erased without a funeral felt like. I woke up Thanksgiving morning with no real plans and nowhere to be. That used to sting. Now it just felt expected. The morning was quiet, except for the hum of my heater and the faint rustle of trees outside my window. I poured myself a cup of black coffee, stared out at the gray sky, and debated whether I should take the cookies I'd baked the night before over to Mom's house. They were just sugar cookies, shaped like leaves, brushed with cinnamon and a hint of orange zest. A simple gesture, not a statement. I told myself I wasn't looking for an invite. I just wanted to stop by, drop them off, maybe catch a smile, maybe confirm what I already suspected. So I got dressed, not for a celebration but for a drop-in. Neutral sweater, jeans, clean but forgettable. No makeup, just lip balm. I grabbed the container of cookies, slid on my coat, and drove across town, passing homes already brimming with guests, cars lined up along curbs, laughter leaking from windows, kids chasing each other in front yards. When I pulled up to my mother's house, I parked across the street, just out of sight of the dining room window. I told myself it wasn't spying. It was caution. Old habits. The back door was cracked open, as usual. It used to mean, "You're welcome anytime." Now it felt like a test. I stepped inside quietly. The smell of roasted turkey, cloves, and baked apples hit me like a memory I hadn't agreed to remember. The house was warm, polished, full of life that didn't pause for my presence. And then I saw the dining room. 12 chairs, 12 name cards, plates already served, water poured, candles lit, not one extra seat. I walked closer, looked for any sign they'd forgotten to add one, that maybe someone was running late, but every place was filled. Names written in Callista's elaborate cursive: Byron, Uncle Ted, Kayla, Verlene. No Maureen, no spare setting, not even a cushion misplaced. That moment, I didn't flinch. I just stood there, taking it in. So this was the version of family they had chosen this year. Maureen? I turned. My mother had entered the hallway, wiping her hands on a kitchen towel. "Oh, honey, I didn't think you were coming." "I didn't get an invite." She blinked, but only once. "It just felt easier this way, less tension." "Right." I nodded. "Wouldn't want me bringing tension with my cookies." I held up the Tupperware in a half-joking gesture. Her mouth tightened into something not quite a smile. "Thank you. That was thoughtful." I stepped forward, placed them on the counter, and caught a glimpse of the playlist on the smart speaker. My Thanksgiving mix from last year, still playing in the background. No one had changed it, just the names around the table. In the kitchen, I reached for a paper towel. I didn't need one. I just wanted to do something with my hands. That's when a small hand tugged at the side of my coat. I looked down. Callista's daughter, Kayla, tilted her head and smiled. "Are you here to clean up like last time?" The words hit me harder than anything my mother could have said. Callista appeared behind her, holding a tray of dinner rolls. She loves tidy people. Don't overthink it. I didn't. I just smiled, touched Kayla's hair gently, and said, "Only visiting today." I turned, walked back to the hallway, and grabbed my coat from the hook near the door. As I stepped outside, I paused. No one called after me. No one asked where I was going. They just went on, laughing, eating, posting. In the car, I sat for a long moment. Not crying, not angry, just recalibrating. There's a moment when silence shifts, when it stops being passive and becomes a choice. I whispered, more to myself than anyone else, "Next year, they'll feel the silence I felt today." I turned the key in the ignition, let the heater warm up, and pulled out onto the street slowly. By the time I reached my apartment complex, the sun was beginning to dip low. The trees were outlined in gold, but the chill had settled deep. As I gathered my things from the passenger seat, my phone buzzed. A notification from Instagram. Callista just posted a new photo. I tapped the screen. 12 smiling faces, glasses raised, captioned, "All here, all love, all real." And just like that, any illusions I'd been holding on to crumbled. I was finally seeing what was always true. They had space, just not for me. I didn't go straight inside when I got back. The car stayed parked beneath the flickering street lamp in front of my apartment complex. I left the engine running just long enough to feel the first wave of heat move across the cabin, then shut it off. The soup container I'd grabbed from the gas station sat heavy in my lap. Chicken noodle, lukewarm, and quiet. That's the word that kept ringing in my head all day. Quiet. No one had yelled at me. No one had slammed a door or screamed across a table. Instead, they had simply eaten without me, toasted without me, assigned seats and served plates, as if I hadn't once been the one printing those place cards, organizing potlucks, texting, "Who's bringing wine?" until midnight the night before. I peeled back the plastic lid. Steam curled upward for a moment, fogging the windshield. I took the first sip without a spoon, straight from the edge. It was bland, but warm. Not good, not bad. Just there. And that's when the thought hit. If they were grateful this year, it was for a version of family that no longer had my name in it. I stared out the windshield, remembering a line Dad used to say before things got complicated. "The people who need you most often forget to thank you." I hadn't thought about that in years. Maybe because I'd spent so long pretending it didn't apply to me, pretending they noticed. All those years, hauling folding chairs from the garage, reheating pies in the second oven, fixing the table legs so nobody's drink would wobble, hosting without taking credit, paying for dishes without putting my name on them, being the fallback without asking for praise. And yet, here I was, alone, eating soup in a parked car, no leftovers, no place card, no text saying, "Wish you were here?" Halfway through the soup, my phone lit up again. A notification. Callista posted a new photo. I hesitated before opening it. Some part of me already knew what I'd see. There they were, 12 of them, packed around the table like a curated magazine spread. The lighting was warm. Candles flickered in the foreground. Laughter was frozen in motion, perfectly timed. The caption, "So grateful for our circle this year. All here, all love." All here. I pinched the screen and zoomed in. My handmade centerpiece sat right in the middle of the table, the one with the dried hydrangeas and tiny copper lights I'd spent an afternoon arranging. I recognized the table runner too, ivory linen stitched with burnt orange leaves. I'd ordered it last fall. They kept the table I paid for, just not the hands that built it. I scrolled the comments. Heart emojis, turkey emojis. Someone wrote, "This is everything." And then Verlene's comment, as neat and deliberate as if it were pre-written, "Whole, finally." I exhaled slowly, set the phone face down on the passenger seat, and rested my head against the cold window. Later that night, after changing into pajamas and curling up on the couch, I opened my laptop to check an email I hadn't thought about in years. It was Verlene's annual Thanksgiving newsletter, the one she started sending after retiring from teaching, full of family updates and seasonal reflections. Out of habit, I'd never unsubscribed. It opened with the usual, a note of gratitude, a paragraph about the importance of togetherness, and an update on everyone's latest accomplishments. Byron had switched departments at the bank. "He's finally settling into something steady," it read. Callista had organized the Thanksgiving menu. "We're lucky to have her as our planner-in-chief." Clyde had brought the wine, as always. There was no mention of me. Last year, she'd written, "A shout-out to Maureen for her warm sweet potato casserole, gone before the rolls." This year, it was like I'd been surgically removed. I reread the ending line, just to be sure I hadn't misunderstood. "Let us all be grateful for what remains when we let go of what doesn't belong." I sat perfectly still. Then I closed the laptop without slamming it. No rage, no outburst, just a cold, clean understanding. They didn't forget me. They deleted me. And maybe it was time I did the same. I looked around my apartment, at the furniture I'd bought, the walls I'd painted, the warmth I created that had nothing to do with them. I whispered aloud, to no one in particular, "Then let's see what happens when what you depend on lets go too." They forgot the cost of comfort. I was about to remind them. The morning after Thanksgiving was the kind of quiet that didn't ask permission. It just settled in. Low, heavy, final. I was standing at my kitchen counter, sipping black coffee that had cooled too fast, when I opened my banking app. I hadn't meant to check anything specific. It was habit. But habit, I've learned, can sometimes deliver truth when you're not even asking for it. There it was, a charge. Auto debit, backyard lighting, Thanksgiving decor, 243.87. The line stopped me mid-sip. My thumb hovered over the screen as I read it again, slower this time. They decorated the house I no longer had a key to, with my money. The account was still linked. The same one Callista asked to use, just for a few months, 3 years ago, when Mom's credit card was maxed out. "We'll switch it over once everything's stable," she'd promised. They never switched it, and I never pushed. I set the mug down and walked over to my laptop, still open from the night before. I clicked into our old expense management portal. A red notification blinked at the top. "Access denied. Session expired." I tried logging in again. "Password invalid." I reset the password. "Security answer incorrect." I sat back in my chair and stared at the screen. Then I pulled out my phone and texted Callista. "Hey, did the password change for the expense login?" She replied 5 minutes later. "I've got it handled now. We figured it was easier if one person took over, less confusion." I stared at the message like it was written in another language. No greeting, no apology. Just another gate closed with a smile. It struck me in a strange way. Not like a slap, but more like someone had shut a door behind me and locked it softly. "Funny how they only simplify when I'm the complication," I muttered. I didn't text back. Instead, I clicked into my utility accounts. Water, active. Trash, active. Lawn service, still billed monthly. All under my name. I felt the breath catch in my throat, not from surprise, but from the realization of how long I had let this go. I remembered the exact day Callista had borrowed my card to set it all up. It was pouring rain, and I was standing in line at the post office. She called frantic, saying the city was going to shut off the water if someone didn't pay it now. I paid it, and then never removed my name, because family was supposed to be worth more than small offenses. Or so I thought. I didn't feel rage. That would have been easier. Rage demands response. This was something else. A kind of stillness that sat at the center of your spine and whispered, "You knew. You just didn't want to see it." I printed out every transaction, one by one, no highlighting, no drama, just records. Then I opened the folder on my desktop labeled Family Financials. I stared at it for a moment, then created a new one right next to it. Exit plan. I whispered aloud, as if saying it made it real. If they won't give me a seat, they don't get to sit on what I paid for. Inside the folder, I began drafting a letter. It wasn't emotional, it was administrative. Request for account ownership transfer, documentation of payments, a polite reminder of liability, a firm notice of removal. As I hit save, my phone lit up again. A message from Verlene. I hope you're not making things complicated again, Maureen. Let's keep the peace for once. My finger hovered over the keyboard. There were so many things I could have said, so many ways I could have laid it all bare. But I didn't. I closed the phone. They wanted peace, but only if I stayed silent. Saturday mornings used to mean errands, laundry, and catching up on emails I hadn't wanted to answer all week. But this one, just 2 days after the most silent Thanksgiving I'd ever experienced, carried a different weight. There was no noise, no agenda, just me, a mug of lukewarm tea, and the dull thud in my chest that hadn't quite gone away since Thursday. I opened my inbox while standing barefoot in the kitchen. Nothing unusual. Promotions, a sale on winter coats, a forwarded email from a former colleague, subject line, "Look who made the headlines!" My thumb froze mid-scroll. The link led to a local paper's feature on community holiday efforts. Big photos, bold text, and there it was. The Bishop family hosts Thanksgiving fundraiser, raises over $2,000 for local food pantry. Right under it, a full-width picture of my mother, Verlene, standing proudly beside Callista. Smiles fixed, hands clasped. The caption read, "Organized and sponsored by Callista Bishop." I stared at the screen like it had betrayed me personally. 3 weeks ago, I had quietly donated $500 to the same pantry under Mom's name. I hadn't mentioned it. It wasn't about credit. It was about remembering where we came from when those pantries fed us more than once. And yet, there they were, taking up space I helped create, standing in front of decorations I'd ordered. On a table, I refinished myself, my fingerprint in every line of the wood grain, hidden under their hands. The centerpiece sitting in the middle of the photo? It was mine. Dried eucalyptus, acorns, bronze leaves tucked between pine cones. I made it while watching a documentary late one Saturday, hoping it would bring something soft to the table they always made sharp. No mention of me. Not in the byline, not in the captions, not in the printed words that said, "Callista Bishop, known for her leadership in family matters, continues her mother's legacy." Legacy. That word tasted like rust in my mouth. They used what I gave, but never said my name. I closed the laptop slowly, like handling a memory I didn't want to break. Then, out of some mix of habit and masochism, I opened Facebook. The first post was from my cousin Aaron. Bishop Family Thanksgiving Legacy. An album. 37 photos, group shots, candids, children laughing, Callista pouring wine, Verlene laughing too hard at something that probably wasn't funny. I clicked through each one, faster than I meant to. Not a single photo of me, not even one from last year, not one of the cookies I baked, or the custom signage I printed for the charity table, or the night I stayed until 1 a.m., cleaning up wine stains while they all went to bed. Comment after comment flowed in. 3 generations of love. Amazing family tradition. So inspiring. Verlene commented near the top. 3 generations, 1 love. And all I could think was, 3 generations, minus 1 witness. They didn't just exclude me. They curated an entire narrative that said, she was never here. Bitterness, when paired with clarity, doesn't scream. It just tightens around your throat, like a scarf on a too warm day. I didn't message anyone. I didn't post a rebuttal. Instead, I opened the filing cabinet under my desk, pulled out a folder labeled Receipts, and laid them out like puzzle pieces. The donation confirmation, the purchase order for the centerpiece materials, screenshots of old group texts where I had volunteered first. Then I opened a blank Word document and typed 2 words at the top. Proof of presence. I uploaded everything into a private drive. Encrypted. Time-stamped. Backed up twice. Because sometimes memory isn't enough, and sometimes silence needs documentation. Just as I shut the laptop lid, another email popped in. This one from a journalist friend I hadn't heard from in months. "Hey, did you approve this quote?" Attached was a screenshot from an event recap. Callista, at the Rotary Club podium, her hands mid-gesture. Captioned, "Our family has always believed in giving quietly. I lead that legacy now." I didn't laugh, didn't curse. I just sat very still and thought, if she wanted the spotlight, she should be ready for the receipts. Monday morning didn't feel any different. The sky was dull, the coffee bitter, and the silence, still too loud. I sat at my kitchen table, robe pulled tight, scrolling through junk mail when my voicemail icon blinked red. I tapped it, half expecting another Black Friday ad. But it was from Verlene. Her voice came through calm, calculated, almost clinical. "Let's not make a big deal out of things," she said. "I think we're all just trying to keep things simple this year. Hope you had a restful weekend. Not I missed you, not I'm sorry, just don't make it complicated." Translation: stay quiet, stay gone. I let the message play twice. I didn't delete it. I didn't call back. Later that afternoon, I stared at her number on my screen, and for reasons I can't explain, hit call. Maybe I was hoping for honesty. Maybe I was done pretending it hadn't hurt. She picked up on the third ring. "Maureen," she said, like she'd answered a call from her dentist. "You never thought I'd fit, did you?" I asked. Not angry, just tired. There was a pause long enough to stretch across a decade. Then she said slowly, "You've always been the one who stirred things up." The sentence didn't come like a slap. It came like a diagnosis, a conclusion reached long ago, rehearsed for moments like this. "I never raised my voice," I replied. "I showed up, I helped, I paid for things I didn't have to." "Exactly," she said. "It was always more than expected." I closed my eyes. I had no comeback. Not because she was right, but because she was done pretending I wasn't a burden to the narrative she preferred. Some families don't exile you. They just hope you'll leave quietly. That night, I got a forwarded video clip from a friend who attended a local women's brunch. She'd sent it with a simple message. "You'll want to see this." I pressed play. There was Callista, standing at a podium, perfectly lit, holding a wireless mic like she was born to do this. Her voice was polished, her hair stiff with spray. "You know," she said to the crowd, "sometimes we have to distance ourselves from energies that don't serve the family anymore. It's not about blame, it's about alignment." Laughter, applause. Women clapped like they'd heard something profound, something empowering. But I knew better. I watched the clip again, then a third time. No one in that room knew she was talking about me. But I did. And I knew she wanted me to know. I didn't react. I didn't post about it. I didn't text her with my anger. I simply saved the video, renamed the file. Narratives, Jaffries, reality, Dantief. After dinner, I sat at my desk and opened a new email draft to Verlene. "I won't be funding the Christmas dinner this year," I typed. "Let Callista handle it." That was it. No threats, no commentary, just a line in the sand. Then I stared at the screen, read it once more, and hit delete. I didn't need to send it. I needed to know I could. Instead, I opened the folder labeled Narratives versus Reality and added the clip from Callista's speech to the growing collection. There were receipts, photos, voicemails, evidence of who I'd been, and how that version of me had been erased with precision. I leaned back in my chair, lights still on, the house wrapped in that kind of silence that isn't peaceful. It's just the absence of noise. I looked at the spreadsheet on my screen, the one I'd started building the day after Thanksgiving. 3 years of payments, line by line. Household, joint, utilities, groceries, backyard remodel. I highlighted each one in yellow. They've trained everyone to clap when I'm gone. They built their peace on my silence. I was about to take it back. Tuesday night had a strange kind of stillness to it. I wasn't tired, but I couldn't sleep either. My apartment was spotless, because when I couldn't control anything else, I cleaned. There was a half-finished mug of tea cooling on the windowsill, forgotten. Somewhere in the city, people were still laughing about their Thanksgiving leftovers. I sat at my laptop and opened the archive folder labeled Old Threads. I don't know why I clicked on it. Maybe I was chasing some proof that things had once been different. I found the Thanksgiving group thread from last year, the one where we used to plan who brought what, complete with emojis and passive-aggressive notes about who always forgot serving spoons. The link was broken, but I wasn't new to this. I'd bookmarked a browser backdoor months ago when I helped Verlene fix her phone. The group chat was still alive, still very much in use. Only now it was renamed. The Real Ones. No Maureen. No trace that I had ever been part of it. The last few messages were filled with turkey gifts, pictures of decorated pies, and Callista's final message before Thanksgiving. No drama this year, just the real ones. I read that line over and over, just the real ones. I wasn't just uninvited. I was redefined. There were cousins on the list I'd once helped edit college essays for. A niece I used to babysit when her mom needed a break. Siblings I'd defended when mom was too sharp, too fast with her judgment. And not one of them had asked where I'd gone. I wasn't just excluded, I was quietly deleted. The chat history didn't even show my name anymore, like someone had backspaced me out of memory. I took a screenshot, then another of the full participant list. Evidence. Still, something in me wanted to believe I was overreacting, that this was all just callousness, not calculation. Then a ping. A message from a friend who followed Callista on Instagram. Just a photo, zoomed in. I hesitated, opened it slowly. It was a snapshot from the Thanksgiving dinner. I had seen the full version days ago, but this image was focused on a small detail I'd missed. In the far right corner of the room, behind the buffet table and a large floral vase, there was a 13th chair. It was slightly pulled out, just enough to suggest it had once been meant for someone. There was a place card folded under the plate, partially scribbled out. I tapped and zoomed. The smudge wasn't enough to hide what it had said. Maureen! They hadn't forgotten me. They had covered me. I didn't feel rage, just a click. The kind that happens when a lock turns and something inside you shifts into place. I didn't text anyone. I didn't call Verlene or storm into Callista's comments. I took the photo, saved it, uploaded it to my folder. Proof of presence. I added a bold word across the folder's digital label. Erased. Because that's what they had done. Not angrily, not obviously, just effectively. And then I sat very still, laptop screen flickering against the dark of my living room. The tea was cold now. I didn't bother reheating it. As I started to label files, preparing for what I didn't yet have the words to say, the doorbell rang. I flinched. No one rang my doorbell without warning. I walked to the door, peeked through the peephole. No one there. I opened it slowly. On the welcome mat sat a white envelope. No return address. Inside, a USB drive. And a small folded note, typed and unsigned. You should hear what they really said. L. Some stories don't leak. They get delivered. It was after midnight when I found the album. I had been half scrolling, half ignoring the world. The taste of peppermint tea dull on my tongue. Facebook loaded slowly. The Wi-Fi in my building always hiccuped when it rained. And it had been raining all day. There it was. Thanksgiving 2023 at home. Posted by Cousin Erin. I almost didn't click it. I already knew what it was. I just didn't know how much it would take from me this time. 38 photos. Every one of them was inside the house I still paid for. The living room with the throw pillows I'd handpicked from a clearance bin in Asheville. The kitchen chairs I'd had reupholstered because Verlene complained the old ones were too creaky. The curtains, my curtains, drawn neatly behind Verlene as she smiled wide next to Callista. There was even a shot of the front porch. Twinkle lights wound tightly around the columns. The same lights I'd ordered on a whim from a Black Friday sale 2 years ago, back when I still thought gestures would lead to gratitude. The photo caption? Callista's home made the perfect backdrop. They weren't just in my house. They claimed it. And it didn't stop there. Earlier that week, I'd mailed Verlene a limited edition holiday wreath. Handcrafted, elegant. I'd even included a handwritten card. Thought this would look beautiful on the door. Love, M. The wreath came back 3 days later. Box intact. Label scribbled across in permanent marker. Return to sender refused. Not misplaced. Not rerouted. Refused. I didn't call. I didn't text. I just stood in my doorway holding the box, rereading the label like it might transform under different lighting. I had to laugh. Not because it was funny, because it was so clear. That night, I finally plugged in the USB drive, the one left anonymously in a white envelope at my door. Inside, one audio file. Dated, November 22nd. Length, pseudo 4:38. I hit play. The audio wasn't crystal clear, but the voices were unmistakable. Callista, Verlene, and Byron. Background sounds of wine glasses, silverware, a faint hum of jazz. Callista. Look, she's too stubborn to be part of this. Byron. You can't change Maureen. She's always been intense. Verlene. She's not family. She's finance. Laughter. Not one of them hesitated. Not one corrected the others. Not one defended me. Just laughter. I replayed the file 3 times, staring at the sound waves moving across my screen, as if they could explain themselves. She's not family. She's finance. That line didn't just stick. It nested. It burrowed into every moment I'd paid the mortgage. While they poured wine over hardwood floors, I refinished myself. I didn't scream. I didn't write a thread about it. I didn't confront anyone. I saved the audio. Renamed the file. Final Evidence, MP3. Then I opened the folder where I'd kept every bill, invoice, and receipt tied to that house for the last 4 years. At 2:17 a.m., I composed an official withdrawal notice. It wasn't petty, it wasn't emotional, it was lawful. I stated my intention to remove myself from the co-ownership agreement, to transfer all utility responsibilities, to revoke automatic payments. Copies were sent to the Homeowners Association, the city clerk, and the family's estate attorney. I didn't warn them. I executed it. Because if they could vote me out of the story, I could vote with my value. If they wanted a Thanksgiving in Callista's home, they could pay for it like Callista would. The next morning, while the world was still waking up, I watched my inbox reload. New email. Subject line, confirmation, Maureen's legal withdrawal, recorded 12:01. I didn't exhale. I exhaled through it. Like something had been pressing on my chest for years and finally lifted. I closed the laptop slowly, deliberately. Then I whispered to the quiet room around me. No one can erase what they never truly owned. Let's see how they spin the silence when the lights go out. The envelope was cream-colored and thick, tucked neatly between a credit card offer and a grocery store flyer in my mailbox. No return address, just my name written in Aunt Beth's familiar cursive. I didn't even wait to get upstairs. I opened it right there in the hallway, back pressed against my apartment door. Inside was the Bishop family calendar, an annual relic printed on glossy cardstock, featuring 12 months of curated memories. I flipped through it slowly as I walked into the apartment, keys still dangling from my fingers. January was Clyde's birthday party at the lake house. February, Callista's vow renewal, which I wasn't invited to. March, Verlene's garden day with the grandkids. April, Easter brunch. May, Mother's Day, with a long shot of all the kids gathered around her. I stopped at July. There it was, my backyard. The one I'd landscaped the summer before last, dragging mulch in 90-degree heat because no one else would. The caption beneath it read, Backyard BBQ at Callista's. My hands tightened on the edges of the paper, but I kept flipping. October, Halloween. November, Thanksgiving. The picture, 12 people. The same 12 from the Instagram post. Everyone smiling, Plates full, wine poured. My centerpiece front and center. The caption, grateful for a complete circle. It wasn't oversight. It wasn't forgetfulness. It was revision. They weren't documenting family. They were finalizing a version of history where I never existed. I closed the calendar and sat at the edge of my bed. The silence in the apartment pressed in harder than usual. That evening, I opened my laptop to do what I always did, delete the promotional junk. But I caught something familiar in my inbox, a Zoom link titled Bishop Holiday Planning, the same recycled invite from last year, before they'd started making new groups without me. I clicked it. To my surprise, the meeting was live. No password, no warning, and no one noticed me enter. The screen filled with faces, Callista at her kitchen island, Clyde by the fireplace, Byron on his patio, nursing a beer. I turned off my camera and muted my mic. They were laughing. "We should just keep it simple," Clyde said. "Honestly, it's been less drama this year. Feels lighter." Byron chimed in, smirking. "Yeah, no firewood flying from the kitchen. I call that progress." Someone laughed louder than the rest. Probably Aaron. Then another voice. "Peace is when the ones who question things stop showing up." I didn't know who said it. It didn't matter. No one objected. No one said, "That's not fair." No one mentioned my name. They had fully transitioned, from silence to consensus. I closed the laptop slowly, didn't slam it, didn't even sigh. Instead, I walked into the kitchen and turned on the kettle. The heat clicked on, filling the apartment with a low hum. I poured the water, dunked a teabag, and leaned on the counter, letting the steam hit my face. "They thought I was the storm," I whispered, "but I was the roof." They had no idea what I held up for them. I pulled my journal from the drawer, thick, leather-bound, gifted to me years ago and mostly blank until now. I flipped past empty pages until I found one that felt right. In sharp, dark ink, I wrote, "This was the year they removed me from memory, but not from consequence." That same minute, my phone buzzed on the counter. New email. Subject, pending disconnection notice. 231 Juniper Lane. My lips curled into a smirk as I read it. I didn't open the full email. Didn't need to. I knew exactly what it said. Comfort stopped coming. Now they'd feel what it carried. If they thought silence was peace, they weren't ready for its price. The sun hadn't fully risen when I clicked open the folder titled Receipts. The glow from my desk lamp cast soft shadows across the piles of documents I had compiled over the last month. Utility bills, tax filings, notarized mortgage forms, screenshots, emails, and recordings. Every one of them, a brick in the wall I had silently built between myself and the family that once claimed me only for decoration. It was December 2nd. I was calm. Not vengeful, not righteous, just done. I opened a blank email, subject line, exit with receipts. In the to field, Verlene, Callista, Clyde, Byron. I CC'd the HOA, the family trust attorney, and the city records office. Not because I wanted to humiliate anyone, but because I no longer trusted any of them to carry my name with care. The body of the email was short, cold, and clinical. Effective immediately, I have withdrawn from all shared ownership and financial ties to 231 Juniper Lane. Enclosed are documented payments made over the last 4 years. Utilities and maintenance contracts have been notified and will be terminated unless otherwise reassigned by December 15th. I've been removed from the table. I've now removed myself from the ledger. I attached 12 documents. Then I hit send. 3 hours passed. The world outside began to move, and I went about my day like I had just mailed a birthday card, not detonated a polite legal bomb. At 10:34 a.m., Clyde replied, "You're overreacting. Let's talk before this gets messy." At 11:17, Verlaine wrote, "This wasn't necessary. Still your family." At 11:49, Callista finally chimed in, "You always find ways to ruin peace." I didn't reply. I simply archived the thread. That night, I lay on the couch, wrapped in the silence I had paid for. I scrolled through Instagram half-mindedly until a post from Callista made me sit upright. A photo of the family, again, in the living room of Juniper Lane. The chandelier I chose sparkled above them. The rug I bought cushioned their feet. The couch I carried up the stairs after Callista bailed on delivery day framed the group perfectly. Caption: grateful for everyone who made this family whole again. The likes came fast. Comments poured in. You guys are goals. This is what family is about. So warm and peaceful. I didn't cry. I smiled. Because now I finally saw the full picture, and not the one in the frame. I saw what peace meant to them. It meant control. It meant edited photos and rehearsed captions and repackaged generosity with prettier faces. But peace, to me, was truth. I stepped outside onto my balcony. The December air stung my skin in the best way. Sharp, real, unfiltered. I poured myself a glass of tea and hit record on my voice memo app. Not for anyone else, just for myself. I left nothing broken, I said aloud. I just stopped fixing what didn't include me. I saved the file as final note 10.mp3. As I placed the cup back on the railing, my phone buzzed again. A message from Leora. Grandma just asked about you, it read. Said you used to light up the house. I didn't answer right away. I stared at my reflection in the balcony window, hair pulled back, eyes tired, but clearer than they'd been in years. Maybe it's time I light up something else, I whispered. Some absences are louder than presents. I had just become one. 1 week before Christmas, the world outside had begun to lean into cheer. Twinkling lights tangled through windows, wreaths tied with red bows, carols leaking out of grocery stores. But inside my apartment, it was quiet. Intentionally so. I didn't decorate, not right away. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table, looking at the blank squares on my calendar. The days I used to block off for family, for travel, for pretending. There was a time, not long ago, when I would have checked my phone a dozen times, hoping for one message, one olive branch, one lie I could swallow because it tasted better than silence. This year, I blocked the thread before they even had the chance. I took a pen, crossed through the week of Christmas, and wrote over it in large, neat letters. Mine. Then I went out and bought the smallest artificial tree I could find, carried it home myself, decorated it slowly with ornaments I liked. No hand-me-downs, no themes, no pressure to match anyone's aesthetic. Just mine. I played old records, cooked a pot of chili that simmered all afternoon, wrapped a basket of cookies and hand lotion for Mrs. Terrell next door, who always brought my mail inside when I forgot to check it for days. I gave where it mattered, not where it was expected. That Saturday evening, I received a group email from Verlene. She hadn't messaged me directly in weeks, not since I pulled out of everything. The subject line was blank. Inside, a single sentence. You're always welcome, you know. No context, no name, no acknowledgement of what had happened. Just the kind of half-sentence that pretends the damage was a misunderstanding. I didn't reply. I read it twice. Once as the daughter they wanted me to be. Once as the woman I actually was. Welcome back to what? Your rules? Your version of me that never made noise? I opened my digital archive and filed the message under a new folder. Forgiven, not forgotten. The next day, I updated my legal paperwork. Removed myself as the emergency contact on Verlene's health file. Removed them from mine. Assigned Leora, who, without ever asking for it, had shown me what quiet loyalty looked like. I rewrote my will, too. Not out of spite, but out of precision. No more ambiguity. No more room for them to interpret my absence as forgetfulness. That kind of clarity was its own kind of healing. My value wasn't up for vote anymore. That night, I posted a photo to my own social feed. A simple image of my living room. The little tree glowing in the corner. A cup of tea beside a book. Caption: This year, I sat exactly where I belonged. In peace. I didn't check the comments. I didn't care who liked it. But 5 minutes later, Leora messaged me. They're asking if you'll come next year. I didn't flinch, didn't feel pulled back. I just turned off the phone and whispered to myself, let them worry about the lights. I've already unplugged. The sky over downtown Lexington was the kind of gray that made everything feel unfinished. Buildings leaned in slightly against the winter wind, and my breath fogged the glass as I sat across from the notary, waiting for her to read the final clause. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't even sentimental. I was just ready. You understand, the woman said, her tone clipped but professional, that this waives all rights to the estate? I looked at her, steady, calm. I'm not waiving anything that saw me as invisible. She nodded, stamped the document, and slid it across the desk toward me. Signature, date, done. I walked out into the wind without flinching, envelope tucked under one arm, leather gloves already back on my hands. It wasn't until I reached the corner of the parking lot that I let myself smile. Not wide, just enough to register as satisfaction. That night, in my apartment, I sat at my desk and opened a new browser tab. I titled the post, When Legacy Isn't Inherited, It's Declared. I didn't name anyone. I didn't have to. The words spoke for themselves. I wrote about how support, in families, is often just a leash dressed up as loyalty. About how financial control is easily masked as tradition, and silence is rewarded more than truth. I added generic screenshots, cropped statements, spreadsheet lines, highlighted transfers. Nothing that broke legal confidence, but enough for the story to breathe. The post went up on both LinkedIn and Medium. I closed the tab and went about my evening. By morning, it had been shared over 600 times. A legal empowerment nonprofit featured it. Comments rolled in, messages from women who had paid mortgages on homes they couldn't visit, from sons cut out after years of caregiving. It didn't bring me pride, it brought me perspective. Later that afternoon, I received an email with no subject line. The sender, Verlene. I didn't open it immediately. I let it sit in the inbox for 2 hours before I clicked. 3 sentences. Why are you trying to embarrass us? You could have just asked for a conversation. Still your family. I didn't respond. I didn't feel the need to. I forwarded the message to my Forgiven, Not Forgotten folder and closed the app. Still your family? Yes, but not your version. That evening, I went to Leora's place. She and her partner were curled up under a blanket on the couch, a black and white movie playing softly in the background. She poured me tea without asking. Chamomile, just how I liked it. Halfway through the second act, she said quietly, Grandma's been talking about you. Not in that sharp way, like she's realizing something. I sipped my tea. Realization, I said, isn't the same as restoration. She nodded once. That was enough. Forgiveness doesn't require return, only release. A week later, on a morning cold enough to bite, I carried the last box of files into my storage unit. The concrete floor echoed with every step. I placed the box inside a bin labeled Closed Chapters. Not bitter, just closed. I clicked the lock shut, pocketed the key, and stepped back into the morning air. I didn't feel like someone who had walked away. I felt like someone who had reclaimed. They called it peace. I call it power. Not because I won, but because I finally chose me.